What if the greatest obstacle to your future isn't failure, it's your current success? What if the very habits and mindset and identity you got to where you are today using that are the same things keeping you from where God is calling you next? Today, we're talking about the identity upgrade that every high performer eventually has to make. This is They Call Me Mr. You, the podcast, where we challenge conventional thinking, confront the questions most people avoid, and have conversations that help you grow as a leader and a person of purpose. I'm Mr. You. Today, I'm joined by Tim Kelly, who has built thousands of real estate units, left a military career long before he probably should have, who just elite performers and can prove that the next level isn't about working harder, it's about becoming somebody different. Welcome, Tim Kelly. Good to have you here, brother. How are you, man?
My man, I appreciate it. Been looking forward to our conversation. Let's dive in.
Same here, brother. Same here. All right, so let's just jump in. So you walked away from the Navy 4 years before your pension kicked in. Most folks are never going to do that because of the obvious ramifications of doing that. It's probably considered irrational by some folks. What did you understand about freedom, risk, and purpose that most folks have not learned yet, perhaps?
Oh, man. There's a lot to unpack there, but, I think my biggest lesson after leaving the Navy at 15 and a half years, I lost identity and structure and rank and, this whole organization that helped define me. And, sometimes the hardest season isn't when it's not when you're failing. It's when the identity that made you successful, no longer fits the life that you're being called into. And at my 10-year mark in the Navy, I realized, man, I don't want to do another 10 years just to get a pension. And so God led me into real estate. I started investing in and I was buying and partnering on these large apartment complex and mobile home park deals. And I was partnering with other service members. And then I had partnered with a couple other service members, and we built what is now the premier military real estate investing education community. It's called Active Duty Passive Income, where we're serving and helping other service members. And I was doing these deals, still active duty, building this community that I was so passionate about. And I decided to get out at 15 and a half years. And the lesson that I learned there, but that is most people see financial freedom as a destination, but the amount of freedom and abundance that I had, financial freedom, financial abundance that I had, it all went downhill, and God took it away from me because I did not have the level of responsibility to handle that freedom. And I went to a dark place, man. I learned a lot of lessons, and, just to be vulnerable, I went through a really ugly divorce. I lost most of what I had built because I wasn't building it for the right reasons. And I wasn't building it in God's will. It was for my own selfish desires. And I didn't have the level of responsibility to handle that level of freedom. And so having financial freedom isn't the destination. It now requires more from you. It requires that next level of responsibility. I've been able to help a lot of other ambitious people during pivots in their life, transitions in their lives, seek more energy and more purpose and more clarity in where they're headed as well. So, man, this is a very meaningful conversation for me.
Same here, man. Thanks for that answer. I love the answer too. This guarantees somebody listening today outside of the host who believes in really being highly disciplined, working hard, providing for their families, recognizing that perhaps some things might be left on the table because you're working so hard in other areas. What's one uncomfortable question, Tim, that they need to ask themselves that they fall in that category?
So before that word discipline, and for me, that's another thing that is very meaningful for me. If you're watching this, you might be able to see this. If you're just listening to this, I literally have a reminder in my office. It's hanging on the wall right behind me. It says discipline equals freedom. And when people hear the word discipline, they think it's restrictive. They think they have to do more, or they don't get the freedom to do the things because it's like all about grinding and staying disciplined, like Goggins type of mindset discipline. But discipline is simply implementing the framework in your life to give you the life that you actually want and that you deserve. Right. And man, like, discipline to me is not restriction. When you have discipline with your body, you have more energy, more vitality, more flexibility. You feel better. You look better. You're able to perform. You're able to show up with your family more. When you have discipline with your money, you have more options. You have more financial abundance, wealth accumulation, so you could do bigger things and impact more people. When you're disciplined with your faith, you grow closer to God. You build a stronger relationship with Him. You have your armor and to fight spiritual warfare, right?
Yeah.
And less drift, and less ego. When you have discipline with your family, you are able to lead and set the example. And so you got to just remove that restrictive kind of stigma to discipline. Because it's really the structure that gives you the life that you want. So I kind of just wanted to make sure that was 100% clear. When people think discipline, they think they have to do more. They think military. They think grit. You have to be a certain level to be disciplined. It's not at all.
Yeah. I definitely want to get into that, Tim, because there's so many friends that have come on this show that came out of the military. And as a matter of fact, we have a men's roundtable series podcast that we do every Thursday night. And we got men that are from the military, and they're still challenged. I'm talking about years later, man, still challenged with finding themselves after the uniform comes off. And there's no more stripes. There's no more early check-ins with the commanding officer. Now they have to live what they call the civilian life. I know the military gives people like yourself a mission, a structure, even identity. What did you learn about identity that had to change and evolve after the uniform came off? And it was like, you know what? I can't be that person anymore. There's no room for that person in this world that I'm in. What did you learn about identity?
Bro, I'm actually I have a keynote that I'm giving here in a couple months, and I'm just so excited about it. And it's all based on formulating your identity. And it's all like, the main premise is, with freedom comes responsibility, like I shared with you before. But until you have a very clear identity that you're operating from, you might end up finding yourself on top of the wrong mountain after climbing that wrong mountain for so many, many years. You know how many men that are successful on paper have climbed a mountain or two mountains or three mountains, and they realize those are the wrong mountains that they've climbed. They're standing on the summit of the wrong mountain. And until you have that clarity of identity, and like here's the thing, like, for identity, I literally have my own framework that I use. And this is like the strongest to establish your identity. It's number one, tell the truth. Number two, close the gap. And number three, become the person who can carry the result, kind of back to can handle the freedom that you're asking for. So one, tell the truth. Like, it starts with an honest assessment. And if you're listening to this, like, where am I saying that I want something that, my calendar, my habits, my spending of money or relationships prove that I'm not actually committed to? You could seriously just look at your time and assess how you're spending your time, right? And there's no better way to just look in the mirror and say, like, you have to make the distinction between being busy and creating evidence of progress. That's a huge, like, high performance gap, and where people stuck, like their calendar is full, but they don't feel like they're actually moving the needle. They're just really, really, really busy. So you got to tell the truth. Like, are you actually focused on the things that are moving the needle towards your mission and your purpose, or are you just busy? Right? That's like telling the truth, getting real, looking in the mirror with yourself, honest assessment. And the more self-aware you are, the more fulfilled you're going to be. The more you understand about yourself, how you operate, the more fulfilled you're going to be. So number one is tell the truth. Number two is close the gap. And the gap that I'm talking about, there's usually a gap between on most ambitious people, between like where they think they are and where other people think they are. There's usually a great disparity between those two, because deep down, the most ambitious people know where they're at is nowhere near what they're capable of, right? So they think they're nowhere near where they're capable of, but on the outside looking in, people think, look at this person, look at what he's accomplished. They think that you just got it all figured out, that you've achieved the holy grail, right? But this is where you can introduce something that's, you know, that I want to be able to give value to whoever's listening. Like, how could you actually apply this in your life right now? Look, the goal isn't to shame this gap. The goal is to see it clearly and celebrate everything you've accomplished, and write down one result that you say that you actually want, right? I want you to write down one thing that you say that you want. Then identify, like, what is the behavior that's required? What behavior have I been tolerating of myself and those around me? And what is the conversation that I've been avoiding to actually, you know, move with purpose? Okay. And it's like, it's all about who you are becoming. It's all about not achieving these things just to have that next deal, or to have that next advancement in pay, or to have that, you know, that bump in net worth. Man, who do you have to become? Because when you have that freedom and when you have that success, it is going to expose the deepest level of character and your deepest level of integrity. And then the third part of this framework, to be quick, is become the person who can carry the result. Like, this is like what's going to differentiate you among so many people. So many people focus on achieving that freedom, that money, the influence, a certain level of leadership, right? But very few prepare themselves for the level of responsibility that those require. So, you know, you don't need a strategy capable of just producing that result. You need to become that person who is capable to carry the result without losing your health, your relationship, your marriage, right? I'm telling me, like, military leadership taught me the discipline, the responsibility when I had that structure, and then getting into real estate and other different assets that expanded my financial abilities, my financial freedom, and I created a lot of abundance, you know. But now I'm approaching fatherhood, and I'm trying to figure out who I want and I need to become to be the best father, to raise the best kids that are like little lions, that are independent, that are capable, that are confident. Because I didn't have a dad growing up. My dad wasn't around when I grew up, man. He was somewhat present, but he wasn't present. Like a lot of people our age, right? And that's a whole other situation. But again, you know, remember what I'm talking about. For your identity to understand, have the clarity that you're moving in the right direction, that you understand your identity is to tell the truth, close that gap, and be the person, and figure out who you need to become so you can carry the result that you're actually asking for.
Absolutely. We got time for a few more questions. You can try to get them in, man. So
Okay.
I've been in circles where financial freedom was the goal.
Yeah.
What I discovered, even honestly, it's not even important than anybody else. This is just me talking about me on my show. What I've figured out is that there is always a why behind that desire for financial freedom, and it's not always pure. What do you see most in your, like, serving other people and trying to help them find the quote unquote financial freedom they're looking for? I'm talking about outside of the money, but I'm talking about having the kind of freedom, the kind of life that they want to craft for themselves. What have you learned, without any unique identifiers, anybody's name, or anything like that, situations? What have you found out as a coach regarding helping somebody with financial freedom, that, you know, there's some things there that, you know what, maybe perhaps the motives aren't what they should be, that you kind of help them kind of curb and and adjust so that they can have the kind of life that they want. Have you seen that before in your coaching?
Not only have I seen that countless times with men that I've been blessed to serve, but I've seen that in my own life. My why originally was just to have freedom and options, be able to spend time with who I wanted to, not have to go to work, not have to go on deployments and leave my family just, to get paid and just to maybe one day get a pension. But I also wanted multiple houses and I wanted to be able to travel and go on lavish vacations. And I wanted those material, worldly possessions. And I had it. I had a ridiculous amount of abundance, more financial abundance than I ever thought. And because I didn't build it with the right intent, God took it away from me. And
wow,
when people have a why and have a reason why they're doing this, that is just materialistic. And for their own selfish desires, it is unsustainable, right? Eventually it's going to catch up. Maybe it might take years to catch up, but those who have a deep, meaningful why and a deep, meaningful desire, where when they talk about it, they get emotional, that creates sustainable success. Okay. And again, if you're questioning, well, what is my why? You can get real with yourself. Again, I want to just give you a practical, what could you do right now? And this is something that I have to do with every single person who wants to work with me. This is one of the very first things that we do is we just go 7 layers deep. And it's very, very simple, and maybe you could just kind of play along with me here. And so, hey bro, so why do you want to create freedom?
Having more time.
So why is that important to you?
Once I lose it, I can't get it back. I'm trying to create moments, create memories that last.
Why are those memories and those moments that last important to you?
Because God gave me family, and I want to honor what He gave me.
Why is that important to you?
I love God, and I care about what He cares about.
Why?
I'm not here without Him. The breath I'm breathing and answering these questions with is on loan. It's not even mine. I don't even own it. I'm just borrowing it for a purpose and for a season.
I hope if you're listening that you see we only went a couple layers deep, right? And it already started I was feeling it. I was getting emotional listening to it, especially because I could resonate. And, the minute I pursued a relationship with God, my, whole life changed. But find somebody who's willing to do this with you, or do it on your own and write that down. Why is this important to me? Why is that important to me? Why is that important to me? Get to the bottom of what's driving you. And I'm glad you brought this up, because this is, this will literally dictate so much of when you achieve that success. It's just gonna really expose it all anyway. So you might as well figure out what's driving you before you go try to achieve these things, and then it's going to be exposed, and it might surprise you like it did me. Or you can get to the bottom of it and understanding that what you're doing, you're actually going up the right ladder. You're actually climbing the right mountain. It's in line with your purpose, with your moral and ethical compass. You're not just climbing someone else's mountain or someone else's ladder. And then you come to find out years later that you're on top of the wrong mountain.
Yeah. Have a purpose for the house before you build it. Totally makes sense. Right. So final question for your team. Great stuff from you so far, man. Thank you for doing this. Final question, and then we'll go ahead and close the broadcast out. You built a lot. That's pretty clear. Military leadership, wealth creation, high performance coaching. I'm a high performance coach as well. I'm not doing as much as you are probably, but I'm definitely in that vein for sure. And you're helping others transform. What do you believe is the greatest battle that most men and most leaders are fighting today? What do you think that is? The greatest battle?
I think it really goes down to what we've been talking about, man. That those and the people I talk to like are very successful on paper. I'm talking about 8-figure, net worth, that have built, that have created, that have achieved, that have been financially free for a long time, and they feel empty, and where their results are not matching their intention. And so the takeaway is this: look, stop asking what else you need to learn. Ask what truth you need to admit to yourself, and what decision you need to make based on that truth. And then what evidence of that truth can you create today? Like, your future is not going to be determined only by what you accomplish. It'll be determined by who you become while you're accomplishing it. The real question that I'm going to leave you with is, who are you becoming?
Love it. You got Tim's link up on the screen for you guys that are listening and not watching us. You can also get it in the show notes and in the comments section. It's in both places for you. But for me, if today's conversation challenged you in any way, do not let it end right here. Take an idea from this episode and act on it this week. Tim gave you one example of what you can do. Write down what you desire, what you want to see take place. Start connecting with somebody like myself or Tim who can help you flesh that out and help you build that out. It happens by changing who you're becoming. So if the conversation has added value to your life, subscribe to the show, share it with someone who needs it, and we'll see you next time on They Call Me Mr. U. Thanks again for watching and listening. That's Tim Kelly. I'm Mr. U.